Today we will continue Chapter 1, Structure of the Atom, Part 2. At the end of this video, you will be able to recognize the electrical neutrality of an atom, calculate the nuclear charge and the charge of the electron cloud. Atoms are electrically neutral since number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. Normally, in an atom, the number of electrons within the electron cloud is equal to the number of protons in the nucleus. The positive and the negative charges cancel each other, so therefore the atom is said to be electrically neutral. Let's solve the following application together in order to understand more when you can use the electrical neutrality of an atom. The number of electrons in oxygen atom is equal to 8. Determine the atomic number of oxygen atom. The atomic number is equal to the number of protons, but you don't have the number of protons. You have the number of electrons here, which is equal to 8. So here we can say that since atoms are electrically neutral, number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. It's equal to 8. So now the number of protons it's equal to 8. You prove it. Then you have to say atomic number, which is Z, equal number of protons. So Z equal 8. So the atomic number of oxygen atom is equal to 8. Now how to calculate the charge of the nucleus, or what do we call the nuclear charge? The total charge of the nucleus is equal to the total charge of the protons plus the total charge of the neutrons. But the total charge of neutrons is equal to 0 since they are neutral, they are not charged. So we can say that the total charge of a nucleus is equal only to the total charge of the protons. So in return, it is equal to the number of protons found inside the nucleus times the relative charge of one proton. So we can say that the total charge of the nucleus it is equal to Z times the relative charge of one proton, which is usually given for you, and it's equal to +1. So here in this formula, capital letter Q is the charge of a nucleus or the nuclear charge, capital letter Z it is the atomic number. So we can say directly that the total charge of the nucleus it is equal to +Z. Let's solve this application together in order to understand more how to calculate the nuclear charge. Calculate here the nuclear charge for sulfur atom. Given the atomic number, it's equal to 16, and you have the relative charge of one proton, it's equal to +1. So again, you have to write the charge of a nucleus equal to the charge of protons plus the charge of neutrons. But the charge of neutrons is equal to 0 since they are neutral. So the charge of a nucleus it's equal to the charge of protons only, and we can say that it's equal to the number of protons times the elementary charge of one proton. So the charge of a nucleus it's equal to number of protons, capital letter Z, times the relative charge of one proton, which is equal to +1. So directly we can say that the charge of a nucleus equals 16 times +1, so it's equal to +16. So here in this formula, capital letter Q represent the charge of a nucleus or the nuclear charge, while capital letter Z it's always the atomic number. Now how to calculate the charge of electron cloud? The total charge of electron cloud is equal to the total charge of electrons. So it's equal to the number of electrons inside the electron cloud times the relative charge of one electron. So we can say that the charge of electronic cloud is equal to Z, which is the number of electrons, which is equal to the number of protons, times minus 1, which is the relative charge of one electron. So in general, the charge of electronic cloud is equal to minus Z. So here in this formula, capital letter Q, it is the charge of electronic cloud. Capital letter Z, it's always the atomic number. So moving to application number 2. Here in this application, you have to calculate the charge of electronic cloud for nitrogen atom. Given the atomic number, it's equal to 7, and the relative charge of one electron, it's equal to minus 1. So again, you have to write the charge of electronic cloud, it's equal to the charge of electrons only, and they are equal to the number of protons times the relative charge of one electron. So you have just to substitute with the given value here for the atomic number. So we can say that the charge of electronic cloud is equal to 7, which is the atomic number, times the relative charge of one electron, then it's equal to minus 7. Now what about the total charge of the atom? The total charge of the atom is equal to the total charge of the nucleus plus the total charge of the electronic cloud, which represent the two main parts of the atom. So the charge of the nucleus is equal to plus Z, and it's verified, while the charge of electronic cloud is equal to minus Z. So by substituting them, we can say that the total charge of the atom is equal to 0. That's why atoms are said to be electrically neutral. They are neutral, they don't have charge. Since the number of protons is equal to the number of electrons, the positive and the negative charges will cancel each other. Thanks for watching. See you next time.